What's up, wizards? This is going to be the third video for my series on leading flops, and today we're going to be looking at leading from the small blind versus the button. It's going to follow a similar pattern as the previous video, in which we looked at big blind versus button leading strategies. We're going to be looking at stack depths of 20 bigs, 30, 40, and 50 bigs. We're going to be using preflop ranges without limps. Same reasoning as before. I think it's just a bit less prone to strategies being affected by certain combos being included or not. In the limping strategies, there's a lot of combos that are mixed, and I think it's just a bit cleaner running it with these no limp ranges. We're going to be looking at aggregate reports, try to get some big picture ideas of what type of hand classes we're going to be leading on certain stack depths. And we're going to be doing a few deep dives into specific strategies and specific combo usage for some of the most led boards. First of all, here we can see that we're leading more the shallower we are, and we're leading more versus the later position opens. Same logic as explained in the big blind versus button video. We lead more at shallow stack depths because the positional disadvantage is being negated by the low SPR. Like when we're out of position at high SPRs, we want to be a bit more careful about building pots. And the reason we're leading more versus later position opens is simply because they have wider and weaker ranges than the early position opens. So let's move into the GTO Wizard software and have a look at these reports. Alright. So here we have the 20 big blind button opening range. It's quite tight, I would say. We're folding 58.4% here, which is quite a lot for a button opening range. But we are rather shallow here, and the small blind and big blind are both going to be reshoving at us at a rather high frequency. So that's why we can't open too much here. And we do some open shoves ourselves as well. Anyways, versus our button raise, the small blind is flatting not too much, 4.7%. He's mostly playing jams versus this open. I think it's a bit easier to see what type of hands he's flatting if we just press this one. And we can see it's like very heavy in this offsuit 10x, very heavy in suited kings, very heavy in suited 8x, and quite a bit of queen x as well, if you count the suited and offsuit. So the best cards are going to be like 10x, King X, 8x, and Queen X. We can see from here. He has a bunch of these like offsuit aces as well, but it's very low frequency and it's not going to be a big part of the range. He's lacking all the best suited ace-x, and yeah, he has none of the suited ones. So range that's quite heavy in suited 8x, offsuit 10x, and suited King and Queen X, I would say. So let's head into the aggregation report for this spot. Here we can immediately see that there are actually some range lead boards, or pretty much range lead boards, you know? 10-8-8, Queen 8-8, 10-10-8, King 8-8. So as we can see, like all the highest frequency here, frequency lead boards here are the ones where we have these magical cards that we saw in the flatting range. Our flatting range here is so specific that the boards that we get to lead on are going to be favoring those cards very heavily. If we click through here, up where it says reports flop, we click through there, we can sort for high cards. We see 10x leading a lot, King X a lot, Queen 8, Jack. Yeah, exactly what we saw. These are our magical cards that are very good for this range. If we keep clicking through, we can sort for suits, flush draw, rainbow, monotone, all kind of close in this one. We are quite suited heavy, but we do have those offsuit 10x combos and offsuit ace-x combos. But quite close between all three, I would say. For paired boards, we prefer not paired, and if they are paired, we basically need the board to be paired in one of our magical cards. So pair of 10s, pair of kings, pair of queens, pair of 8s. Not going to be too much leading on paired boards outside of those specific ones. Connectedness, kind of close again, but we do prefer the more connected boards. We're not super connected in our range here, you know, but we're more connected than button is going to be. So yeah, that's what's going on. Let's have a look at one of our favorite boards here, the favorite board, 1088 Rainbow, and see why this is so good for us. Alright, so here is 1088 Rainbow. We can see that we're just leading range for 33%, but I'm going to rerun it with the AI solver. I'm going to use my own sizings here, only bet sizes, and this one. This is just a sim that I made, like pretty much covering all options. So yeah, we're going to run it like this and have a look at what's the optimal sizing here. Because the aggregation sim is obviously just run with B33 and all-in options without including other options, right? So we can see here that B40 is going to be our optimal sizing, and we're still going to lead for full range. So not too much to look into in combo usage here because we're just using all of them, but we can look at ranges to see why this board is so good for us. We can see that for the 90 to 100% equity bucket, we're crushing him super hard. 10.7 versus 1.7. For the next bucket as well, we have almost twice as many hands. Yeah, then he's leading a little bit, then we're leading a bunch. So overall, we're going to be crushing this board a lot. Like trips, for example, we have 14.7% of our range is going to be trips on this board. For him, it's going to be 5.8%. Over pairs, quite similar. Like, yeah, I mean, we only have like half of pocket aces, while he has jacks, queens, kings, aces. But as a percentage, it's going to be very close. But because if you look up here, like we have 50 combos. He has 427 combos. So yeah, that's why that one is very close. Yeah, top pair as well. We have a decent advantage. Like as I said, like our most frequent offsuit combos are these offsuit 10x. So every 10 high board is just going to be very good because of this. 54.8% equity, which is kind of wild for a flatting range. So yeah, that's what's going on. Let's go back to the reports for a little bit. So we're back at the aggregation report here, and what you can do here is sort for different things. You can sort for the most checks, the most all-ins, the most B33, for the most equity, whatever. You can sort for different things. So let's have a look at the most leading jam boards, because we see like 1% of the time we are actually just jamming for 3x pot, which is quite a bit. So let's have a look at one of these top leading boards, 875 Rainbow. All right, so same procedure. I'm going to rerun this with the AI solver. We're going to use dynamic and my own sizings. So we can see that we're betting 2/3 pot 20% of the time and jamming for 3x pot 22% of the time. So we're putting quite a lot of money in on this board. If you look at the ranges here, we're actually at the equity disadvantage. We only have 47% equity, which is kind of surprising that we're putting so much money into the pot when we don't have an equity advantage. Usually when that happens, it's because you have a big nut advantage. But as we can see here, we don't even have that. We never flop a straight, we never flop a set. We have a bit of an advantage in 2 pairs. He has an advantage in over pairs. But then when you get down to top pair and second pair, this is what's driving our strategy, I think. Because if you think about it, top pair on this board, we have twice as many combos as him, percentage-wise. And it's not just any top pair. Like, if you have ace-8 offsuit here, that hand really just wants to put money in now. Or king-8 or whatever. Like, for these hands, there are just so few good turn cards. Pretty much any turn card is going to be pretty bad for our hand and shift equities a lot. So I think what's happening here is that we have a lot of these two, second pair and top pair, and we just want to end it right now. We just want to realize all of our equity before the board gets more dangerous. I think if we look at some of the draws as well, yeah, actually we don't really have too many of these. We have more gut shots and backdoor flush draws, but he actually has more open-enders than us. But in general, I think the idea here is just that we have so many top pairs that really want to realize all of their equity. So let's move on to 30 big blinds. All right, so here we have the 30 big blinds button opening range. We can see that it's quite a bit wider already from the 20 big blind sim. Of course, at 30 big blinds, you're going to get re-jammed on less. And also playing higher SPR is going to be better for us in position. When we open, the small blind is also going to be flatting quite a bit more here, which also makes sense. It's a result of the button opening range being wider, combined with the fact that the big blind can't squeeze shove as much anymore. If we click here, we can see that we're still quite heavy on the same type of hands as before. We see a lot of offsuit 10x over here. Remember, offsuit combos are 3 times as many as the suited ones. So even like, it might look weird that I'm like pointing these ones out, but there are actually quite a lot of combos, right? In total, it's going to be 12 combos per offsuit one. Of course, these are not completely filled up, but it's still going to add up to a lot of combos, right? It's going to be like 9 for this one, 9 for this one, so that's 18. And like 7 for this one's like 25 combos in total, maybe. Quite a lot. Well, if you look at the suited King X here, for example, it's 4 combos per. So it's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So even though this looks more, it's going to be less in total, right? Just something to keep in mind when you're looking at these grids, that this portion of the grid is going to count for a lot more than this one, right? We see a lot of suited King X here. We see a lot of suited 8x. This is going to get messy real quick. So a lot of suited 9x. Plus, now we have a few more combos of these offsuit ace-x and even a few combos of the suited ones. So quite similar range, just a bit widened, and yeah, a few more of the suited ace-x combos that we didn't have before. So let's look into the reports. So we can see that we're leading a bit less now, 18.4% compared to 23.6% before. Looking at the hands, they look very similar. However, I see a lot of 10x, King X, 8x, Queen X, and Jack X. So very similar. We can click through here again and see. So yeah, 10, King, Queen, 8, Jack. I'm leading the most, no surprise there. Flush draw board, still better for us. Now monotone has taken over for rainbow. I guess we're a bit more suited now than before, plus that we have the suited ace-x that we didn't have before. Those are quite good, of course, on these ones. Unpaired, still better. Paired, still okay, but depends a lot on the magical cards. And for the last one, connected, quite a lot better now. I guess our range became a bit more connected than at 20. Let's see if we can find a new kind of board to look at. I don't want to look at the same one again, 10, 8, 8 rainbow. Let's look at this one, 10, 9, 6. Let's do the flush draw. All right, 10, 9, 6 flush draw. Let's start off by rerunning it. Gonna load my own sizes. All right, so we can see that we're using B40 here approximately 2/3 of the time. I'll look a bit more into the strategy, but let's have a look at the ranges first. So we have 53% equity here, which is quite a lot. If we move over to the advanced buckets here, we can see that we're crushing him in every segment. We're crushing 90 to 100, 80 to 90, yeah, all the top ones. We're crushing quite hard, I would say, and then he crushes us in the bottom 3 ones. So it makes a lot of sense that we just get to play leads here, putting this much money into the pot when we're crushing it so hard. If we look back at the strategy here, it's not a very easy one to play. It's very heavily mixed. If you look at like what hands are betting here, it's a good mix of everything except for like the truly hopeless ones, like the ace deuce, ace 3 with no flush draw or backdoor flush draw, like the king 4, the king 5 without a flush draw, 5-4 suited, ace 5 off as long as you don't have the ace of hearts. So yeah, other than that, it's like quite heavily mixed between everything, I would say. What we can do is that we go into filters here and we can sort for 0 to 25% and 25 to 50% equity. And we can see like what type of hands are we bluffing? And we can see like all of these ones playing very passively, the truly hopeless ones. And then our main bluffs are going to be like the ace 8 and ace 7 offsuit, especially I guess when we have hearts. Actually no, it's a bit mixed there as well. You can see like for example, this one, ace of hearts 8 is just checking a lot. So yeah, it's a good mix there. Queen jack, bluffing a lot. King jack, no matter what suit it is, bluffing a lot. And yeah, this suited 8x and suited 7x. That's going to be our main bluffing candidates. So let's have a look at what happens when we bet and we get raised here, because I was quite surprised looking at this strategy. We can see that he's mostly going to play call here, and the hands that he's raising or jamming, they're actually quite strong. We can see that he has like some mergey stuff here, like queen 6 of spades, for example. He has not only super strong hands, of course, but in general, he has like pretty strong range, I would say. Even most of his top pairs are playing very passively just by calling. Like if you look at this like whole line of 10x here, it's very passive. Same with these 10x as well. Like, okay, ace 10 is playing quite aggro, and 10-8, sure, because it has added equity of the straight draw. But overall, very passive with top pair. Over pairs, very aggro. So yeah, very strong range that he's playing here. And if we look at how we continue versus his races, we can start by looking at jams. We can see that we're actually mixing folds with top pair here, which is kind of wild to me. Mixing folds with queen 10, kind of crazy. Even with the 10 of hearts sometimes, even having a heart, we lead fold top pair here, which I don't really think happens in game. And if people do find leads here, they're definitely not leading top pair with the intention of folding. So that was a bit surprising. Even a hand like king jack of diamonds here must be close, right? If you look at the EVs. Okay, I mean, not really. Queen 10 is of course super close. Queen 10 is super close, but yeah, king jack of diamonds actually losing quite a bit. What about if he just raises 50%? So like 3.5x or whatever this is. Even here we're mixing folds with queen 10 and jack 10 and king jack of diamonds. Now king jack of diamonds become very close. But look at this, like it's kind of crazy to me. Like especially when we have the queen of diamonds or jack of diamonds, I guess this is where he's drawing a lot of his bluffs from. Yeah, over cards with like some backdoor stuff. That's kind of wild. Kind of wild that we're leading these hands and folding to races. Anyways, let's move on to 40 big blinds. Alright, moving on to 40 big blinds here. We can see that now we're opening even wider on the button, 51%. I'm not going to explain again why this is happening. Small blind is now flatting 12.6%. And it's basically just an expansion, right? It's very much the same hands as we saw before. Offsuit 10x even more heavily represented now because we flat ace 10 off 73% of the time. So that's going to be a lot of combos for that. Yeah, same suited king x a lot, suited ace x, 8x a lot, suited 9x, and now quite a bit of suited ace x as well. We even have the lowest pairs now, deuces through sixes, quite heavily represented, and quite a bit of these like suited connector type hands as well. Yeah, let's head into the report. So we can see that 10-eye flops are really where we draw most of our leads from. If you just look down here, it's like a lot of 10-eye boards, right? Overall, we lead for 9.2%, but if we go for the filters here and we sort for 10-eye boards, we're going to see that we're now leading 34% of the time, which is kind of wild. Remember, population is playing most of these boards as pure check. Population is not really leading much here, right? And in fact, like we're supposed to lead a third of the time on all 10-eye boards, you know, not just talking about the best ones, like on all of them on average, we're leading a third of the time. So Anyways, let's go back here. We can do this again as well, sort for high cards and stuff. So we can see like 10-eye now is like really favored compared to all of the other ones. It's followed by king-eye, jack-eye, and 5-eye for some reason. I guess now like we have all the smallest pairs. So I guess like 5-4-3, 5-4 deuce, 5-3 deuce, stuff like that is going to be actually pretty good for us now because we're going to flop a set a bunch. Yeah, and then queen-eye and ace-high as well. But very heavily favoring the 10-eye boards. For suits, we can actually see that monotone has taken first place here now, which is a bit surprising, but I guess it just comes from the addition of all the suited ace-x that we've added to our range, right? Before, we weren't flatting that much suited ace-x in a small blind. We were just like rejamming most of them pre. Now at 40 bigs, we're starting to flat most of them, right? So we're gonna flop a nut flush quite often, since our range is so heavy in ace-x suited and king-x suited, right? So it does make some sense. Flush draws as well, very good. If we move on to pairing, we're gonna see that non-paired is still the best. Paired is mostly just gonna be good for our magical cards. Connectedness, connected is best. Disconnected, bit worse. So let's head into our top contender here. Can have a look at this 10-10 deuce flush draw board. Standard operating procedure. I'm gonna rerun it to get sizings. Let's see if we're gonna use B25 or B40 or what's it gonna be. Maybe even B33. Okay, so B25. I'll call this B25. Quarter pot, we're gonna be leading 3/4 of the time. So very high lead frequency. We can go into the ranges here and see we have 53% equity on this board, which is quite a lot. We're really crushing him in this 90 to 100 bucket. It's a bit skewed because he's actually leading the next 2 buckets here quite heavily, and then it's on us again. Maybe it's better to sort it by simple to average it out a bit more. So you can see we're leading in the best hands, leading in the good hands. Yeah, very close, but slightly leading in weak hands, and then he has a lot more trash hands than we do. I think basically we just draw our leading strategy because we have a lot of equity here, and not advantage. Like, we have more boats, we have more trips. Sure, he has more overpairs, we don't have any of them. Quads, but that's like one combo, so. I think an interesting point of this strategy is not actually how we play. I think our strategy is kind of makes a lot of sense. It's the same, like we have pure give-ups here with all of the truly hopeless ones. We can like filter out, we can exclude hands with heart and diamond, exclude heart and diamond. Actually, maybe it's better to do like this. So there is some leading from like some of these hopeless ones, like king 5 of spades, king 4 of spades. But we can see for the most part, actually, it is just pretty good mixed overall. I wouldn't draw too much conclusions based on this, because if we exclude, we're going to find hands that, well, nothing that wants to check that heavily. But yeah, I wouldn't say the difference is big enough here to draw like major conclusions. We even mix like some of the worst stuff here, like king 4 of spades and whatever. I guess that's just because we have such a big advantage here that we even get to mix in some of the really bad stuff, you know? But what I think is interesting here is Villain's response to our bet. Because we're going to see that Villain is supposed to float us pretty pure with a bunch of hands that are very, very weak. Like, look at this. Like 5-4 of spades, for example, just pretty much pure float. A little bit of raising, tiny bit of folding, but not really. 8-7 offsuit. 8-7 off with spade club is like pure continuing here. King 6 offsuit with the 6 of hearts, like king of spades, 6 of hearts, pure continue. So he's floating us really, really wide here, and I don't think this is going to happen in game for sure. But I also think it's important to realize that the reason that he gets to float us so wide here is because he protects his range so well with all the strong hands that he's just calling. Like, look at this, all of these 10x that are just calling. All of the overpairs just calling. Even like hands that feel like very natural raises, like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, you know, hands that need a lot of protection. They have good equity right now. Just pure calling. So he's protecting his flatting range so well by calling all of these hands, which means that, yeah, I just think that the solver is playing his range very balanced and unpredictable here compared to human beings. I think like if you're playing this spot in-game, I think leading will go very well because I think you'll get a very honest and straightforward approach by most villains. You know, they're not going to float King of Spades, 6 of Hearts. They're not going to float 7-8 offsuit. And they're not going to call all of these 10x. And they're not going to call pocket 9s. They're going to play a much more honest strategy, which is going to make your life a lot easier, of course. Yeah, so I think in-game leading is going to go quite a lot better than what it is here, because this is going to be very difficult to play against. He's going to be so protected on all turns, right? Anyways, let's move on to 50 big blinds. All right, so here we are at the 50 big blind opening range. We can see that button is opening even wider now, 54%, quite a wide range. Small blind calling range is also expanding a bit. Same reasons as explained before. But also, we're adding a few hands now that we were happy to rejam or 3-bet in the 40 big blind sim. Hands like Ace-10 suited is flatting, King-10 suited, Ace-Jack off flatting quite a bit, King-Queen off. These were all hands that were like happy to shove or 3-bet call at 40. Some pocket 7s, some pocket 8s. Yeah. So the fact that we're including some of these stronger hands in our flatting range now also allows us to widen the bottom part of our flatting range, right? Hands like King-3 suited, Jack-7 suited, 8-6 suited, stuff like that we were just folding at 40. Let's move into the report. So first thing to notice is that we're leading a bit more now than before, which is a bit surprising, right? Because we're playing out of position at what is now a higher SPR. So a bit surprising to me that we get a higher lead percentage than at 40. But I guess it's just some of these boards that are now going to become really good for us, given how the ranges have shifted. Let's click through here and see what type of boards are good for us. We can see already that 10 high boards is still the favorite, but now it's much more close. And we're very close to the Jack high boards and 4 high boards, which is interesting. 4 high boards is now in 3rd place. That's pretty interesting. I'll investigate that one in just a minute. But yeah, then King Eye, 5 Eye, Queen Eye. All right. So for suits, monotone is still best, followed by flush draw. Same thing, we're very suited heavy in our range now. From the small blind, keep clicking, and we're going to see that non-paired is paired better than paired, which is better than tripled. Actually quite surprised that we do leading on tripled at all, the way the ranges look here, but okay. And connectedness is going to be better for us, for sure. Connected and open-ended straight draw possible is better for us, but yeah, it's somewhat close actually. So let's go back here and let's do some investigation on the 4 high boards to see what's going on there. If we sort down here by 4 high boards, all right, so except for these paired ones and even some of the paired ones, looks like we're leading a lot on mono for sure, like mono 4-3 deuce leading almost half the time. So let's have a look at that one. All right, so for B25, I'm still going to call this B25, we're leading for 54% of the time here, which is quite a lot, given that this is a board that population 100% range checks I'm willing to call it 100% because if you round it up, it's going to be 100%. I've never seen anyone lead this board before. So let's have a quick look at what's going on. We have 52% equity almost. We have 3 times as many straight flushes as him. We have almost twice as many flushes as him. We have the same amount of straights, 2.6%. And we have almost 4 times, like 3.5 times as many sets as him. So quite a big advantage there. He has a bit more over pairs. He has a bit more top pair. But yeah, pretty big advantage for us in the best hands. So let's have a look at the strategy and let's see. First, let's have a look at how we play our highest equity hands here, the flushes. So let's sort for flush and straight flush. First thing to see is that we're actually pure betting the straight flushes, which I think, if you're thinking about it and you're trying to like arrange into 2 here between checking and betting, I think for most people it would be natural to slow play these straight flushes, just thinking that they're immortal and nothing bad can happen. But I think this is actually the reason why we want to fast play them here. For all of our other flushes, there are actually runouts where we have to slow down quite a bit, either because of the board pair or 4th heart coming, right? With the straight flushes, there are no such runouts, and we just want to start building the pot immediately. That's what I think is going on for the most part anyways. Poker is complex, and sometimes you think you have it figured out, and actually there's like a completely different reason. But from my investigation, this is what's going on. Otherwise, it seems like we're mostly slow playing the flushes that have outs to straight flushes. So Queen 5 suited, King 5 suited, 7-6 suited. A lot of these nut flushes as well. And of course, these are not the only ones. You have like a few mixes here from everything basically. But I think, I'm not sure if this is mostly because of the protection that we have with these like straight flush drawing hands. You know, like some of the 4 flush cards will give us a straight flush. So I'm not sure if that's the main reason, the protection part, or if it's that we are blocking villain's continuing range, holding these cards. Like for example, villain is never folding any hand versus our lead if he's holding a 5 or a 6 in his hand, right? So meanwhile, he's folding a bunch of like his 7x, 8x, 9x hands, right? So I think that's probably what's going on there. We can have a look. We can go into bet here and have a look at villain's folding range. So yeah, we can see here, like he's folding a lot from this region of 7x, 8x, 9x, and to some degree 10x. When we're betting these hands, if we go back into our range here, let me sort again for flush and straight flush. Like, when we're betting a hand like 9-7, we're blocking his folding range, which is good, right? We want to get call because we have a really good hand. So you want to block his folding range when you have really good hands, right? And unlock his calling range. So that's what's going on here. You see like this middling region, they just want to pure bet pretty much. Because we're blocking his folding range. So that's what's going on there. Let's see what happens if we exclude hearts again, both from the suited and the off-suited portion of the grid. So you can go down here and exclude. We're going to exclude hearts here and here. So we're going to see we're leading quite a bit less now. We're still betting quite a lot though from the entire grid, I would say. Very heavily mixed. Especially these non-heart hands that have straight draws are betting at a very high frequency. Stuff like 7-6 suited, 8-6 suited, King 6 suited, King 5 suited, Queen 6 suited, Queen 5 suited. So a lot of these drawing hands to straights are very, very good betting candidates. I guess the biggest surprise for me here is how many seemingly random hands we're betting. Hands like King 10 off, no heart, King 7 of spades, King 7 of diamonds, whatever, you know, like I think these are the hands that population will not be as good at finding, even if they know that they're supposed to find leads on these boards, which most of the population already don't know. But if you find like some genius that actually knows that he's supposed to lead this board, it's going to be very unnatural for human beings to play pure lead here with King 7 of clubs, or, you know, like the King of diamonds, 10 of clubs, or whatever, Ace of diamonds, Jack of spades. You know, these are very unnatural hands to lead, while some of these other ones, like the Queen 5 of spades, for example, very natural, right? All right, so let's move into the summary of the session. So first of all, we're leading more at the shallower stack depths. This is not a linear progression. And as we saw, there is, for example, slightly more leading at 50 bigs than at 40 bigs. But in general, we do lead more at the shallower stack depths. Small blind really likes the 10-eye boards. This holds true for all the formations we looked at today. Outside of the 10-eye boards, small blind also leads a bunch on king eye, queen high, and jack high. And once you get deep enough, there is quite a bit on 4 high as well. 4 high and 5 high. Small blind prefers flush draws and monotone boards, given how suited heavy the small blind flatting range is overall, especially once you get up to the deeper stack sizes that we looked at, like 40 and 50 bigs. Small blind prefers connected boards. Small blind range is not only more suited heavy than the buttons, but it's also way more connected than the buttons range, right? The button range is going to have like a bunch of disconnected stuff like King 7 offsuit and hands like that, right? We're simply not going to have those flatting in the small blind. Small blind is therefore going to be flopping more straights, more straight draws, more pair plus straight draws, etc. than the button. Last point is that population is very likely to react a bit too honest and straightforward versus our leads, especially on some specific boards. Like as we saw on the 10-10 deuce heart diamond board, for example. Villain was supposed to play a range very passively, but also by being very sticky. He was floating hands like 8-7 suited, 5-4 suited, stuff without backdoor flush draws, you know, King 7 with the 6 of hearts, etc. And in reality, I think population will raise way more and fold way more of those very thin floats that they were supposed to make. So yeah, that was really it for the video. Any questions? Leave a question in Discord. You can find links to the Discord server, GTOWizard.com. Next video, we're going to be looking at leading in 3-bet pots, and that one is going to conclude our series on leading, for now at least. Anyways, hope to see you there for that one, and hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.